Okay, so here is the all-new Boss 180Z hooked up to a truck. This is the first one that we have in Montana. There's two, so this one's all done. Customer's gonna come pick it up, so I got as fast as I could down here. Some parts are good, some parts are bad. Just a different kind of design on it. This kind of looks like a snow scraper inside here. Basically a dual hinge up here, stoppers up here, pin up here to lock this in. The controller is pretty simple. The connecting this plow is a lot easier and a lot simpler. Having this hook style going around this pin up here and then this pin shooting through. You're not having to put actual down pressure on the plow, you're actually lifting the plow to get this to move back and forth to slide in. So a much easier way to connect that. My biggest downside that I'm seeing is there's no battery inside here. So I'll pull this up. Inside the control box, usually there's a battery here, there's no battery here, so anytime you want to do anything to the plow, you need to have your connection to the plow. So if you need to raise this off the ground to hook into the plow, you have to have this piece connected up here to run any hydraulics on here. But it's super easy to add a battery if you need to do that, if your dealer needs to do that. If it's not an issue for you and you find out it works just fine the way it is, cool. You do have the controller here that brings the plow down. It actually brings it down pretty dang fast. So up is down and down pressure. Down is to bring the plow up. And for some reason it moves the plow super slow, but just something you'll have to see on your specific plow. It could be something you could change on the hydraulic area, but this setup right here, this moves back and this shoots the pin out to disconnect. And there's one on each side. This side does not have the safety pin, the red safety pin that is right here that allows this to not fall out on accident. Everything looks identical in here. From this distance here to this distance here is actually smaller width than the snow power. The snow power actually comes, this piece comes out further here. The side lights, the dealer was telling me they like these side lights a lot better. They seem to work a lot more effectively and more brighter than the snow power ones, so that's an upside. The fifth wheel rail mount, all they added to was they added this top piece, some holes. I'm not sure what the circular holes are for, but there's also a camera mount here that you could add. They're actually using smaller diameter holes and bolts on this Boss plow setup. Not sure why. And then as well as on the inside, they have an extra hole up here for more adjustability on specific trucks and different type brand trucks. If you need more leverage up or down, that is an extra hole. And I think the earlier snow powers actually came with that option. One hydraulic compared to two hydraulics. The dual hydraulic on the snow power, I kind of prefer that personally. The one hydraulic is fine, it's gonna do the job. You will notice they do use bigger gauge bolts on most everything on this plow except for on the lift cylinders. And that is because not having shear pins on the wings and all that kind of stuff, these are actually the first thing that's going to break on your plow, or they want to break on your plow is these pins. Those are basically shear pins technically because they're smaller gauge. So if anything's going to fail, it's going to be one of these bolts. You'll just have to switch it out, but I doubt you're ever going to break one of those bolts. When it comes to the hydraulic area, you got a plastic top compared to the metal on the snow power. Not a big deal. Lights on the sides, hydraulics here. The hydraulic fluid is in here. You pretty much fill it up till it covers there's a metal cylinder, round cylinder in here kind of. Fill it up till it hits the top of that. And then test for leaks and all that kind of sort. But so this isn't clear, this is concealed black. You can't see how much fluid in it. So that's kind of a bummer, but it just kind of is the way it is. I see a lot of people adding a battery to this. Let's take a look under the hood. So power cord runs from here, and it looks like there's a lot of length, so you can get close enough to the plow to hook it up and connect and disconnect. They ran this through the tailgate hole here. You can really run it wherever you want. The Boss 180Z solenoid, whatever you call it, I'm still trying to figure this whole thing out. This is where they connected theirs, so power ground. Basically this allows power to go to the plow. This is usually on the snow power in the back of the plow in the hydraulic blocks area. On the Boss, they move these to the front. So that's kind of where that's located, and they run everything back. So basically the wires get run through the back to the plow. So it's a little more work than the snow power, but overall it's going to do the exact same job. Here is the connector for the controls for the plow that goes to your remote on the inside. So that gets run as well with your power ground to the back of the plow. And that's just a four wire connection. As for the hinge mechanism, I'm worried about this You're just gonna have to see how this is gonna wear. I think this is kind of like a scraper bar for this bar to keep snow and debris out of here. Will be interesting to see if this packs with snow and what happens there. I like this hinge design. It looks pretty simple, not a lot of moving parts on it. Huge lift cylinder. Just keep an eye on these areas. It'll be interesting to see if you hit an ice chunk or something. When you're in the full back position, this pin is actually pretty protected. So it's got some metal here and around it. So this is actually pretty protected. But when your wing is full forward, if you hit something at a right angle and the right height, it'll be interesting to see what happens with these. I wish there were some grease points on these pins, but if you put a needle adapter or a needle tip on your grease gun, you can squeeze it in there and grease that up. Here's an idea of a little bit of design and light through. You might get some spillage right here. You've got two stoppers in here. Basically the stoppers run on both sides here and both sides here. So this one is the up, when this plow comes up, this is the stopper to stop it from coming more up. Okay, so one big thing I noticed on this plow, when the plow is all the way up to the stoppers on the inside, resting on this piece down here, this plow is very, very stiff. From the inside fifth wheel mount, the whole plow, this thing is super stiff, not gonna move around a lot at all. Even back to fourth, it moves the whole truck, and this plow is really, really solid. But if you put the plow down just a little bit, and basically free floating, this plow moves a lot. So the plow moves a ton that way. Okay, so I want to show you guys that one last time. When you're pushing on this, on the stoppers, very, very solid. You're basically moving the whole piece as a whole with the truck and the plow mount frame. So we'll bring the plow down, just a touch. Comes down super fast with the button, so that's off the stoppers back here. There's the amount of flex this thing has. So just flexing it back and forth, you're gonna get a lot more scraping ability with the one cylinder on an unlevel surface compared to the snow power having the dual. I personally like having the dual hydraulics, but it's all personal preference of what you're gonna like. This is probably gonna scrape on uneven surfaces a lot better with this amount that it's moving. But once the plow's down, once the plow's up, you're not gonna have a lot of movement, and it should contour to the ground really, really well. Another thing to take into account with your decision. All right, I'm gonna move the wings out, and then I'll show you the exact same thing. You're gonna have some more weight on the outside of each wing. Try to get it as straight as possible. So now you have your center of gravity going in here is going to be longer now because you've got more weight on each side. So let's see what that is for how much wiggle it has. So that's just me kind of leaning on it. This is me kind of just pushing on it each side. If I really wanted to, I could probably hit this side on the ground. So I just want to show you guys just how much float it has to contour to the ground with the one hydraulic cylinder in the middle compared to dual, and just a few little differences. Like I was saying, the diameter from here to here is actually shorter compared to the snow power. The snow power sits out about an extra couple inches with this whole setup system. So, as well as the pins from pin to pin, like I showed you guys, it's actually longer on the snow power, so it all kind of evens itself out in the end. When the plow's all the way straight like this, when you're gonna go to a garage door, I was worried about these pieces sticking out, and yes they do, but you can see it's really, those pieces don't really matter too much on keeping that straight edge. So these pieces back here, not a huge deal. You're not gonna get that close, but some people maybe you do, and you just gotta take caution of how far these are sticking out. And it's not terrible, and it really is a nice straight line. So something I wanted to take note of and show you guys is when this plow is completely straight, it almost looks like you could put a pin in here and squeeze it somehow, or put a pin in here so that you can only go back so far. Just kind of a neat kind of thing. You could probably put a pin in here too, and that would actually act as another stopper. So this is the original stopper that goes through when the plow's forward. Those line up to lock this plow. It almost seems like if you were wanting to keep it in a certain position, you could maybe figure something out to keep a pin that slides in here with a crossbar up and goes down to keep it from going whatever you want. Overall, I think they did a really good job on this plow in specific areas compared to the snow power, but I would be lying if I didn't say snow power also has some really great things about it that are better than this plow. It's going to be really handy to see this plow in person and make your own decision. They listen to snow power a little bit. Personally keeping my snow power, I love my snow power. If my snow power ever has issues, I'll probably go to this one. but I doubt my Snow Power is ever going to have an issue for the future. And when Snow Power has to stop selling them, this is kind of what you're going to be stuck with. So these plows being given out to customers right now, I think it's a great test run for these plows. See what's happening with them.